All right, if you're deep in the trenches studying for your architecture exams, you've definitely come across these two words, ancillary and accessory. They sound almost the same, right? But getting them mixed up on your PPD or PDD exam can cause a whole domino effect of wrong answers. So today, we are going to clear this up once and for all.
Okay, so to get this, I want you to think about your building like it's a movie. Simple enough. You've got your main actors, right? These are the primary spaces, the classrooms, the operating rooms, the big open offices where all the action happens. But, no movie is complete without its supporting cast. And in the world of building codes, figuring out who's a supporting actor and who's just, say, a special featurette, well, that changes everything.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why these two terms are such a mystery. Then, we'll meet our supporting actor, the ancillary space. After that, we'll get into the making of featurette, the accessory space, and its super important 10% rule. We'll put them head-to-head in a showdown, I'll show you a common exam trap to watch out for, and we'll finish up with a cheat sheet that you're definitely going to want to screenshot.
So why the big deal? Why all the confusion? Well, in the International Building Code, the IBC, these aren't just vocabulary words you can kind of fudge. Oh no. They have huge real-world impacts on things like your occupant load calculations, whether or not you need a fire-rated wall, and even the total allowable area of your building. If you get this first step wrong, it can cascade into a dozen other mistakes down the line.
Okay, let's kick things off with our first character, the ancillary space. This, my friends, is the true supporting actor of your building. It's not the star of the show, it's not getting the top billing, but without it, the main actor just can't do their job.
So here's the absolute key. An ancillary space is all about functional support. It doesn't really have a life of its own. Its entire purpose for existing is to serve the primary space it's attached to. Think of it as the backstage crew, They're the ones making the main performance happen.
Let's make this real. Picture a school. The primary spaces? That's easy. It's the classrooms, the library, the gym. That's where the main show of learning and playing happens. But what about the ancillary spaces? Well, that's everything else that makes the school actually work. The hallways you use to get from class to class, the storage closets full of supplies, the janitor's closet, the mechanical room humming away. You can't have a school without them.
Or how about a hospital? Primary action happens in the operating rooms and patient rooms. But where do they keep the sterile instruments? At an ancillary sterile storage room. Where does the support staff coordinate care? From an ancillary nurse station. These spaces are functionally critical to the main medical stuff going on.
And one more for good measure. In office building, the primary spaces are the open office areas and the conference rooms where people work and meet. The pantry, the copy room, that little IT closet, the restrooms, all classic ancillary spaces. They're all there to provide functional support. You see the pattern, right? It's all about pure operational logic.
Okay, now let's switch gears and bring in our second term, accessory occupancy. Now, if ancillary was the supporting actor, think of accessory as the making-of documentary on a Blu-ray. It's totally related to the main film, but legally, it's its own separate thing. The relationship here isn't about function anymore. Now we're talking about law and code.
The phrase you need to burn into your memory is different occupancy group. This is the #1 most important thing. We are not talking about how a space works anymore. We're talking about how the building code classifies that space. An accessory space is legally subordinate or secondary to the main use. And when you hear the word accessory, I want this number to flash in your mind like a giant neon sign. 10%. This is the golden rule. It's the bright line test that the code gives us to determine if something can even qualify as an accessory occupancy. So the code, specifically section 508.2 of the IBC, lays it out for us. For a space with a different occupancy group to be considered accessory, its area cannot be more than 10% of the total floor area of that story. If it's even a little bit over, say 10.1%, nope. It fails the test, and now you have to treat it as a full-blown mixed occupancy building, which comes with a whole new set of rules.
Here's a perfect exam-style example. A hospital is mainly an institutional Group I occupancy, but a gift shop inside it, that's a mercantile, or a Group M use. See? Different occupancy groups. So if the whole floor is 20,000 square feet, the 10% limit is 2,000 square feet. Since our little 500 square foot gift shop is way under that limit, boom, it qualifies as an accessory occupancy. It's really that straightforward.
All right, it's time for the main event. Let's put these two head-to-head, side by side, so the difference becomes absolutely crystal clear. This is the part where you're really going to want to lean in, because this is where those exam points are won or lost.
If you remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this slide. Ancillary is all about function. How does the building operate? Does this closet functionally support that classroom? Accessory, on the other hand, is all about law. How is the building classified by the code? Is this little shop a different occupancy group that's legally secondary to the main one? Function versus law. That is the fundamental difference.
Let's just walk through this table real quick. The main driver for ancillary, functional support. For accessory, a different occupancy group. What about size limits? Ancillary doesn't have a specific percentage limit. It's just whatever makes sense for the building's program. Accessory, you know it, that strict 10% rule. Fire separation, generally neither of them requires it on its own. And those examples just nail it home. A storage closet in a classroom is ancillary. A small gift shop in a hospital is accessory.
Now, right when you're feeling confident, the exam loves to throw in a curveball. There is a third, sneaky concept that is designed to look like the others and trip you up. It's the incidental use area. Think of this as the classic red herring in a multiple-choice question.
So what on earth is an incidental use area? Well, it's not about function, like ancillary, and it's not about occupancy type, like accessory. The one single word I want you to connect with incidental use is risk. We're talking about spaces that have stuff inside them or operations that are just plain more hazardous than the rest of the building.
Think about boiler rooms, furnace rooms, maybe a paint shop. Because these spaces have a higher risk of, say, fire, the code treats them totally differently. And here's the absolute crucial point that sets them apart. Incidental use areas almost always require a fire-rated separation or a dedicated sprinkler system. That 10% rule doesn't matter here. It is all about containing the potential danger.
Okay, we've gone through a lot. Let's boil it all down to one simple final cheat sheet. Seriously, get your phone out. This is the slide you're going to want to save for that last-minute review right before you walk into the test center.
Here it is, short and sweet. When you see a question, just run through this checklist. First, is it about function? If it's a support space like a janitor's closet or a hallway, it's ancillary. Second, is it about law plus a size limit? If it's a different occupancy that's under that 10% threshold, it's accessory. And third, is it about risk? If it's a hazardous space like a boiler room, it's incidental, and your brain should immediately start thinking about fire separation. Function, law, risk. That's your mantra.
At the end of the day, the code isn't just a random set of rules. There's a why behind it. Ancillary spaces are about making buildings work efficiently. Accessory occupancies are about managing different uses in a simple way. And incidental areas are all about life safety. Understanding that logic is the real key. So I'll leave you with this question. Take a look at whatever project you're working on right now. Which spaces are your main actors, and which ones are the absolutely essential supporting cast? You've got this. Good luck on your exams.